Okay, I'm making this follow-up to the Resident Evil 4 remake video I made a few days ago. The one giving out my impressions on my first few impressions on the game. Because it seems like a lot of people did not understand what I was trying to say. As usual, they assumed, and they assumed wrong. They claimed I was saying the game is too hard. And so I'm not good enough because I'm complaining about the game being too hard, or that it's not true that it controls badly, or it's not true that the aiming sucks, even compared to previous Capcom games, or that I have a skill issue. Yeah, those stupid responses like that. There were also nice responses. People agreed, some people disagreed, but there were also nice people and polite people. So some nice discussions were had in the comments. But also some people accused me of lying because I was making stuff up about the game. And that doesn't sit well with me, because you cannot say that. You can't even tell the difference between Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 4 Remake, and then you accuse me of making stuff up. That fucking pisses me off. And so I've decided to collect a few clips to show off the differences between these two games, Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 4 Remake. I'm not going even to go and like talk about other games. I'm only going to talk about these two, because I think the difference in how things were handled is pretty striking, and there's quite the disconnect in terms of design, because some choices really don't make sense. So first I'm gonna show off the clips I've collected, and also a few clips of people who have S-ranked the game. The show off how the aiming is really not that perfect. How well some people were claiming, oh no, you just need to get used to it. No, it's not just that. It's not just getting used to it. You can get used to it, but some of the issue will still remain. And honestly, I don't like the approach they have gone with. They've nerfed. It's like Leon is a fighting game character, and they nerfed them into oblivion in this remake while buffing the enemies. I don't know if you ever played Street Fighter 4, but Leon in the original game, Resident Evil 4 original, he was like Ryu in Street Fighter 4 Vanilla, which was like the second best character in the game. And then in each subsequent release, they have nerfed him until he just became, I think, mid-low tier in the last release of Street Fighter 4. And that's how Leon feels in Resident Evil 4 Remake. He's a mid-low tier character. He can barely keep up with all the enemies. You just have to cheese the game to play when you play at very high levels of difficulty, like professional. And so yeah, I'll show the clips I've collected myself about Resident Evil 2 and 4, showing off the movements, Leon's movement, and the aiming system, how it works, how it's different. And yeah, I think some people will be surprised, because I don't think they even noticed the differences between those two games, and it's quite hilarious in my opinion, because then they go around spouting, judging me for saying bullshit, nonsense, whatever, when they are the first ones who even lack the awareness to notice the big differences between these two games. Games that modern Capcom has made in the last few years. So it's not like one game was made 10 years ago, the other now. No. They are only a few years apart between the two. So I'll show off that, and then I'll come back to talk about my conclusions. So see you soon.
Wow, how did that hit the box, dude?
Holy shit. Like, if there was ever... Okay, alright. If there was ever a clip that illustrates precisely how bad the hit detection is for Resident Evil 4 Remake's guns, it would be this one. Holy I have never seen it. I have never seen it this bad. What the hell? Okay, look at this. Look at this. If it's possible for me to slow it down... Okay, here. I'm gonna slow it down for you guys. Did you see that? The crosshair is over the barrel, alright? It's over the barrel. The entire whole ass crosshair is over the barrel, and the game decided that the bullets go this way. Alright? The way that the gun just like jolts around for an additional second. Look at that. Nice invisible walls, Capcom.
It's hopefully clustering around the ladder out here. When you've killed 15 enemies, the charge bell will ring. I could not hit that trap. Pretty sure I was shooting it dead on, but it just didn't go off, so I ended up just forgetting about it.
That time it worked. Please. Christ! When did I get grabbed? Did anyone see that? When did I get grabbed? Why is my health low? When did I get grabbed? Did he just like grab me for one frame and it took off my health? Like right when I decapitated him? They just make damage affect you like on the very first frame that a grab connects. Which is like absolutely unheard of in a Resident Evil game.
Alright, what is there to say then? Well, the first thing that strikes me the most is the design philosophy of the big difference in design philosophy of the two games. Because you have on one side a game like Resident Evil 2 Remake, where the gameplay rhythm is definitely slower, is more slower paced than Remake 4. But then they gave the player character a more steady aim, snappier movement, because in Resident Evil 2 Remake there is some inertia to the character's movements, but it's very minor. The movements are pretty snappy, especially when you turn around. You do it immediately. You don't have to wait for an extra animation to complete before you actually turn around, like in Resident Evil 4 Remake. You just turn around almost immediately, and that contributes to making the character feel faster, for example. And it's not just that, but also the aiming. The aiming is just more precise. You have a steady aim. The only thing you have in Resident Evil 2 Remake in terms of aim maluses is a reticle bloom. That is acceptable because your aim is steady. There is no bullet travel distance, so as a way to make aiming a little bit more challenging, they introduce reticle bloom, which diminishes the precision of your weapon, and it's fine. It's fine. Just like in Resident Evil 4 Classic, the only malus you really have in terms of aiming is the aim sway. Like Leon's aim will like actually shake a little bit, but that is fine because that is the only malus you have in Resident Evil 4 Original in terms of aiming. So you can shoot things even from far despite that, because the hitboxes on the enemies are also pretty generous. So you don't need to be extremely like precise to the millimeter, to the centimeter. And the game helps you in that. There's a little bit of auto aim assist too in that game, especially with the sniper rifles. You can headshot people even though you're not exactly on their head when you shoot with the sniper rifle, so it does help you in that sense. Meanwhile, in the remake 4, they just, like I said before, they have nerfed Leon so badly because they gave him slow movement with inertia. So to complete certain movements, to go to the next stage of a certain movement, you'll have to complete a certain number of animation frames first. Like, for example, when you have to turn around, you'll have to wait for a certain animation to finish, and then he actually turns around, which is very annoying and makes reacting to things harder, because you cannot just turn around and snap like in Resident Evil 2 Remake almost immediately. No, there's that pause in your movements that makes everything feel slower, heavier, and of course cuts down your reaction time, because you either start before doing a certain action, or you will not be able to react in time, because you actually have more animation frames to complete before you can move on to the next action. It's kind of bullshit in my opinion. And in terms of aiming in Remake 4, like I said before, in original Resident Evil 4, there was only Aim's Way. In Resident Evil 2 Remake, there's Reticle Bloom. So each game has a single aim malus on its aim system. Meanwhile, in Resident Evil 4 Remake, they gave Leon Aim's Way, Reticle Bloom, bullet travel distance, and there's also there's something weird going on with the hitboxes. Despite your crosshair being on the target, it just won't hit. I don't know what's the problem with that, but that's just how it is. Sometimes your shots will not hit, no matter how more skill you have. Doesn't matter. Also, it doesn't take much skill to align a crosshair with a target, so it's a very fucking stupid retort you're making. Seriously, stop with that. There's no skill in shooting a target with a gamepad. If the game decides that your shot shouldn't hit, it's not on you, because the crosshair is on my target, but the game decides it did not hit. So it's the game that's fucked, not the player, honestly, like you've seen in those clips. But yeah, the problem with Remake 4 in terms of aim is that they just gave you all those maluses, plus there's these weird inconsistencies in terms of hitboxes, weapon spread, weapons bullet spread. Like you've seen in that clip of the guy trying to shoot the barrel while going backwards, and then the game decided that he had to hit the box despite the crosshair not being anywhere near the box. And sometimes, like I said, the shots will just miss. I don't know what's going on. Probably there's something finicky going on with the hitboxes, with how they are detected, and so on. I don't know. But yeah, those are the main issues with the game. And it's a weird design decision, because like I was saying before, they gave Leon faster movement, snappier movement, and better aim overall in Resident Evil 2 Remake, which is a slower paced game. And then they gave him a worse aim overall, a worse aiming system overall, slower movement, heavier movement to move around. And then there's all those little inconsistencies that make things worse overall. So it's a design decision that doesn't make sense, because they gave you better controls in a game that should control with a slower pace compared to a game that's way more action oriented, like Resident Evil 4 Remake. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's funny because there were a few people copying in the comments of my previous videos saying that Resident Evil 4 is a survival horror. I mean, it has survival horror elements, but it's an action game at heart. You cannot seriously say that Resident Evil 4 is a survival horror. There's literally people shooting at you with machine guns at the end. Like, there's you fight armies of enemies. Enemies shoot you with machine guns at the end. They throw grenades at you. What kind of survival horror is that? You can say it's an action game with survival horror elements, but you cannot say it's a survival horror. It's just fucking cope. I've read so many like justifications, excuses to justify the inconsistent design choices of this game. Someone else instead tried to say that Dead Space 2, because I mentioned Dead Space 2 in my previous video. Well, Dead Space, you need to be precise to cut off the limbs of your enemies. So that's why in Dead Space there's no Aim's Way or Reticle Bloom or all that stuff. Well, I mean, was he trying to say that Resident Evil 4 Remake doesn't incentivize precision in your shots? As far as I know, the game incentivizes you going for headshots and also limb shots to also then capitalize with the melee, so you can kill enemies faster. So being precise with your shots in Resident Evil 4 Remake is important. It's not true that it's more important in Dead Space. It's important in both games. So I don't know why people. I mean, I know people are giving these scope excuses because they want to justify the weird decisions, inconsistencies the game has. But I think it's just the wrong thing to do, because you want the game to get better. So you should criticize. You should praise where there needs to be praise, but you also criticize where there needs to be some criticism, because it's legitimate. Nothing is ever perfect. You want to get better, you criticize the things that don't go well, and you accept and praise the things that go well. So that's how it works. It should work. But yeah, going back to talking about inconsistencies, like for example, another glaring one is the fact that in Remake 4, the bear traps do not damage you. If you get caught in a bear trap, you don't get damaged. Meanwhile, throws, if an enemy grabs you, you will get damaged. It doesn't make fucking sense to me that you get caught into a bear trap, you don't get any damage. You don't receive any damage. If you get even touched by the enemy because they'll grab you, you get damaged. It's just nonsense to me, especially because in the original it worked the opposite. You did get damaged by being caught in bear traps, while the enemy's grabs did not damage you. And that's how it should work, because in no other Resident Evil grabs will damage you. It doesn't make sense. Actually, the only Resident Evil in which you get damaged by enemies just by being grabbed is Resident Evil 0. And Resident Evil 0, we all know it's not a like bad game, but it has some design issues. So it's kind of curious that Resident Evil 4 Remake has that in common with Resident Evil 0. But yeah, and I mean the game is playable. You can play it, but you just feel very limited all around. No matter how good you get, there are some things you cannot do. You just have to cheese the enemies in a lot of situations on harder difficulties, because they will fuck you up if you don't do that. And it feels frustrating because the game is not as fun as it could be. It should have been better. It should have been more polished, and as a result more fun. But instead, it's full of inconsistencies and weird design choices. So I mean, I'm liking it so far, but there's just those inconsistencies that don't let me enjoy it to the fullest. Like the previously mentioned inconsistencies, the random stagger when it comes to enemies. Even if you put the laser sight on the gun, and it's a single gun, it's just the handgun. There's still the bullet travel distance you have to deal with, which was not in the original. And even with the laser sight, even if it's just on one gun, sometimes you'll still miss your shots because the game decides to do that to you. Probably because of the inconsistency in the hitboxes, but yeah, the game should have been more polished. It's plagued by this weird design choices, and I mean, some people will say that they don't care. Some people will say that it's another thing, but I think it's an objective fact. You cannot deny it. There's literal proof. There's videos around. Even if you go and play the two games back to back, you can see it for yourself. Not just because I made these clips, but because that's how it is. It's not an opinion. Resident Evil 2 remake in terms of gameplay and how Leon and Claire control just feel better than Resident Evil 4 remake. That's just a fact, and I think Resident Evil 4 remake should have controlled a bit more similarly to Resident Evil 2 remake. That would have made the game more fun and less frustrating for nothing. Trying to chase a weird sense of realism, which doesn't make sense in a Resident Evil. Like, those are the kind of nerfs I will expect to see to your nerfs. The kind of attributes I will expect to see on your aim in a military simulator like Arma, but not in a Resident Evil. If you have one malus, one nerf to your aim, whether it be Reticle Bloom or Aim's Way, you just need to have one, not three together. Plus and also the inconsistencies with the hitboxes and bullet spread that make everything worse. It's just a game stuck in between very weird decisions, like being an action game, but also being wanting to make you feel not strong enough to take on enemies, which is just weird to me. Because Leon had to undergo military training to perform wars than he actually performed in Resident Evil 2. It's just weird to me. And the fanboys will make up excuses for that. They'll say everything is fine, everything is perfect. But then, you know what the thing is with these people is that they will accept anything Capcom gives them. Any slop Capcom gives them, they will say thank you. So if, for example, Resident Evil 5 remake will play exactly like Resident Evil 2 remake, with the same like movement and aiming, but just with Resident Evil 4 gameplay, but with Resident Evil 2 remake sensibilities, they will say, yeah, this is even better, this is the best game ever. What happened to Resident Evil 4 being the best game ever? Yeah, they'll say the Resident Evil 5 remake is the best game ever because it's the latest thing and Capcom has made that game, so it's the latest Capcom game and it's the best automatically. But they will not notice the differences between the games and will say it's just fine. Because like I said, these people will accept anything Capcom gives them. Anything Capcom does, it's good to them. So their opinion doesn't matter, honestly, because they cannot even tell the difference between the games. But yeah, I've said everything I wanted to say. I will not talk about the remake, Resident Evil 4 remake for now anymore, because this is the last thing I wanted to say in that regard for now, until I actually review it. But I want to wait until I at least complete the hardcore playthrough before I review it. I'll see if it's worth playing professional. I'll have to see if it feels fun or it just feels frustrating because I have to cheese everything to go on. I'll have to see. But yeah, I'll definitely review it and I'll give out more in-depth thoughts when I make that video. Because this one was a very fast video. I didn't even make a script for this video, so yeah. So in the near future, I'll review Resident Evil 4 remake, and also next few videos will be in terms of like reasoned videos. So no gameplay, no playthroughs. I'll sort of review. It's not gonna be like a proper review Cyberpunk because I have finished it recently again. And also Resident Evil, I'll start reviewing all the Resident Evils, most of the Resident Evils. So I'll start with Resident Evil Director's Cut. And yeah, these will probably be the next two videos, but we'll see in terms of more reasoned videos. But yeah, as usual, let me know what you think. Hopefully it's not some stupid shit like a skill issue because it's not funny. You're not being provocative or witty or snarky, you're just being stupid because the only thing that takes to get good at a game is practice. You don't have to get an engineering degree to get good at a game. Even if it's a game that has stupid mechanics like this one where you feel nerfed into oblivion, it only takes practice. That's it. So you're not special. Even though I doubt you're actually like that good, but yeah. Yeah. I'll see you on the next video and take care. Let me know what you think. Bye bye.